Hello and welcome to the Intentional Clinician Podcast. I'm your host, Paul Krauss, licensed professional counselor. I am so excited to bring to you today Integrative Solutions for Anxiety with Dr. Nicole Cain. Dr. Nicole Cain is the host of the Get Your Life Back podcast, and she has created multiple new methods, all contained within her ACT method, to help people get to the root of their anxiety by combining integrative and functional medicine with psychology and naturopathic medicine. She is taking a new approach to people that really want to end the chronic anxiety and depression they are experiencing. And she has a ton of free content and material to share with us, including free things that you can do from your home during quarantine or at any other time. She has been providing a lot of resources to the community lately, and I'm excited to tell you all about it. A little bit about Dr. Nicole Cain. She has been a doctor for almost 10 years. She is licensed in Arizona and spends most of her year in Scottsdale, Arizona, working one-on-one with clients and also promoting her podcast and some of her courses that she has as well. She is a bit of a snowbird, and so you will find her sometimes working remotely in the Midwest during the summertime. She is currently working on a book that will illustrate her model for major publication, and in the meantime, you can also check out the about 8 ebooks she has written that accompany her courses. She has quite a presence on social media, offering free content on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. I was just noting on her website that she has lots of free resources, including blogs, email lists, courses, and a private Facebook group for people that are dealing with anxiety to talk to one another. She has been working on integrative and natural solutions for anxiety, bipolar, depression, PTSD, women's libido issues, and other conditions. Unlike other doctors who may take a more integrative or holistic approach, Dr. Nicole Cain is adamant about getting to the root cause of a person's suffering, and so she spends a lot of time with her clients and also offers specialized lab testing through a variety of accredited labs around the country. Dr. Cain is mostly focusing on trying to provide her health information to a larger audience right now through courses and online instruction. All right, let's get to the interview and hear more about what Dr. Cain's got to offer. Welcoming back to the show, Dr. Nicole Cain. Thanks so much for coming on.
Happy to be here.
So, it's been a long time since I last had you on our podcast, The Intentional Clinician. That was episode 15, What is Gut Psychology with Dr. Nicole Cain. And I got a lot of feedback on that episode. People loved it, and a lot of people went to download your ebook. I did get a few complaints that I made too many jokes, so I'm going to try to just stick to the point here because I think you have a lot of important stuff to offer the audience in general and the world, so I want to make sure that gets out there.
That is exciting. Less jokes, more fun.
So let's just cut to the chase. Since episode 15, which was a while back, a couple years ago, you now have your own podcast called the Get Your Life Back podcast. Can you tell me about that?
I decided that I had lots of things to say, and I was saying it again and again to the different people that I work with, students that I mentor, my clients, and people kept saying, can you record this, or can you get this out there for me so that I can listen to it again? And I was like, yeah, why don't we just put it in a podcast? And so we did.
And I must say, I've been listening to the show, and it is really incredible. I was so impressed that this was your first attempt at a podcast. I'm a little bit jealous, honestly, because most of my episodes that are good involve other people. It takes me about a month and a half to write my own podcast. And what I saw you doing is almost every week or two, you're writing your own episodes. And I just wanted to read some of the names of these for free. It's out there right now on all platforms that Get Your Life Back podcast. Permission for Joy, Learning to Deal with Anxiety and Hypervigilance. We got a lot of feedback on that one from what I heard.
Yeah, it was really profound. I talked to so many different people from around the world who expressed that if they felt like they were able to honor joy or grab a hold of joy, that either this made them a bad person or that something bad was going to then happen to them. And so many of these individuals were desiring joy, but they were actually stopping themselves from experiencing it. So this podcast talks about why that may happen and what you can do about it.
Excellent. So there's so much here that I want to make sure our audience gets time to hear everything you've got to offer. But just a few of the other interesting podcasts I thought were really cool was Why Am I So Tired? The frozen side of a trauma response, which honestly, I don't feel like that's written about or spoken about very often. And I think during the pandemic that we're experiencing, a lot of people have been feeling frozen. Some other episodes I thought were interesting were how popularity in adolescence can dictate your current relationships, finances, happiness, and life expectancy.
I know that one was, when I was doing the research for that, it just became more and more apparent how our brains are developed in part by our peer relationships. And so doing trauma work with my clients, so often these experiences they're having, whether they're dating or they're having conflict in their work, the work always went back to these really early childhood or adolescent experiences that primed the way that they ended up perceiving their life. And so going down this rabbit hole of research, I started to see the actual brain science behind that. And then going even farther down the rabbit hole, I was able to see that we can actually correct that so that we're no longer stuck in adolescent patterns or stuck in our adolescent trauma.
I love it. I do a lot of work on trauma-informed care, trauma-informed counseling, trauma-specific interventions, and I found it really fascinating because the approach you take is a lot more universal, I think, than the psychology podcast that I'm doing. I feel like what you did was you somehow got all of this knowledge and brought it into the realm of anyone can really listen to this and get something out of it. You don't just have to be a psychologist. Some of the other ones I thought were interesting was you had some on procrastination. You had one about existentialism, how to wake up and live the life you were meant to live. A couple of those, actually. You had a couple of series on conquering insomnia, anxiety, and sleep-related issues, which I think is a huge one right now with the pandemic. A lot of people are experiencing anxiety and insomnia. And I know you have a lot to say on that, so I don't want to dwell on that too far. Stress-stopping skills, I thought that was interesting, called Falling Down the Well, about how to basically help people who are afraid of, I guess, falling down the well and going too deep and not being able to come back. Is that what that's about?
Well, the interesting thing about stress is that the body, the nervous system, doesn't really differentiate between anxiety or stress or overwhelm or even happiness for that matter. The chemicals that are produced are virtually the same. And so when we're talking about stress, a lot of individuals are like, oh, well, I'm just kind of stressed, I'm overwhelmed. They don't realize they may benefit from tactics, techniques, and strategies that are intended for more extreme forms of that. So they may miss out on all these different resources because they're like, well, I'm not anxious, I'm overwhelmed, when really their body is producing the exact same chemicals as though they were anxious.
I love it. So interesting. I'm excited to dig in more. And then lately, I've seen a couple of the series you've had. You've actually interviewed some people that have gone through transformational changes, which was, I thought, really interesting. But navigating female friendships, I know you work with men and women as clients and people in your classes. But you've been really kind of honing in on helping females lately. Can you tell us a little bit about navigating female friendships?
This was one of my favorite blogs to write and then turned it into a podcast because there's a couple of things that are happening with the relationship phenomenon. And I start to talk about this in the female friendships blog. And then I actually expand on this in the 3-part series on loneliness, where we find that a lot of individuals have this all or nothing way of looking at relationships, where it's like, you are my friend, and therefore the expectations are that I tell you everything and that we're really close and that we have all of the adventures together or share all of the stories. On the other end of the spectrum is that I'm going to push people away. I'm going to be very lonely, very isolated, very private, have good boundaries. And so what the Female Friendships blog looks at is it starts to demystify the cast of characters. And the cast of characters comes from the entire scaffold that we use in the ACT method. The ACT method is basically the foundation of all the work that I'm doing, and it stands for ACT, and that's Acknowledge, Cast of Characters, and Tools for Transformation. And what my goal is, what my hope is to help you write the next act. And so if you've had difficulties with relationships, whether with girlfriends or even romantic relationships, or if you have a history of difficulty in adolescent relationships, then this whole blog is starting on the premise of, well, how do I demystify my cast of characters? Who are playing these starring roles in the play of my life? And should these people be playing these starring roles? Do I need to do an audit of that? And how do I even go about figuring out if these are good relationships for me or not? And so I created an exercise many years ago called the House of Boundaries. And so what the House of Boundaries does is it looks at levels of intimacy and how we are in those different levels of intimacy. So, for example, a stranger, the cable guy, the male person, they're not going to be coming into the bedroom and learning about your deepest, darkest secrets. That's for bedroom people. And so the question is how do we figure out how to be in relationship in a way that's safe and authentic? And so my female friendships blog really touches on that. And then it expands into that loneliness series that we're actually in the process of creating right now.
Interesting. So I had a couple questions about all of this because you are a doctor by training, and some of what I've heard you say about why you were focusing on loneliness and relationships in the middle of a podcast that also deals with, I guess you had an episode on the thyroid, you've had episodes on different medical issues that can influence anxiety and all sorts of mood disorders. So can you tell me a little bit about why the focus in the last few episodes about relationships and friendships and loneliness and how that could, I guess, affect us medically or biologically? Is that what I'm hearing?
A lot of interesting topics come out of my anxiety breakthrough freedom courses. And so right now I have a cohort of individuals and we're going through the ACT method. And as I encounter these beautiful souls and I learn about what they're struggling with, my heart is to take that struggle and then turn it into content that will help them overcome that struggle. And so, for example, in one of our most recent sessions, we were talking about this House of Boundaries topic. And one of the warriors in our group said, well, I'm incredibly lonely. Like, I feel like there's nobody in my house. And so I was like, well, we need to do a podcast on loneliness because I guarantee you that you're not the only one that feels that way. And so then doing the research on loneliness, we can actually see that there are biological tendencies towards that. And so part of the whole ACT method in the cast of characters, we have the psychological cast of characters, which are the different parts of ourselves, our trauma, our experience. There's the social cast of characters, which is all of the social environment around us, which could be culture, society, economics, politics, your friends, your family. And then we have the biological cast of characters, which is that interplay between your genetic tendencies, your epigenetic tendencies, your thyroid, your gut health, because it all goes together. And I have such a great passion for this. My undergraduate degree was in psychobiology, and so being able to create something that's accessible for people, where it's not just psychology and not just medicine, but something that helps you see the whole picture of your entire experience, that's my passion, and that's what we've been doing with the more recent content.
I love it. So a very integrated and holistic approach, looking at the body and the mind and the soul and all of the elements in that. And I guess you've developed this ACT method, which you're utilizing in your very long form course that you're teaching live. And I guess you're going to eventually make this into an on-demand anxiety course sometime in the next 6 months. Is that what I've understood?
Yeah, my heart is to make this available to as many people as possible. And so the ACT method is something that I created where I am able to, with one foot in psychology and the other foot in conventional medicine, is I'm able to take the best from both worlds and put it into a philosophy that understands what disease, what health, what illness, what transformation actually looks like. And we use the philosophy in the ACT method of vital resiliency. And vital resiliency basically functions on the premise that your body tends towards health and wellness as long as all of the pieces are there. And if we can put the pieces there in a sequential, reproducible, reliable model, then people have hope that they can get well without becoming dependent on a pill for an ill or a supplement for a symptom or spray and pray testing. And so my goal is to put all of the content that I've been creating into what's called an evergreen course, where somebody can go get it on demand. They can watch it from the privacy of their own home anytime, anywhere, and at a price point that's affordable for quite a lot more individuals.
And I also understand you were telling me earlier about the courses are not just the video. You have videos, but you also have basically what I would call a book, 60-page more PDFs with research citations, exercises. Can you tell me about that?
It's comprised of, so first of all, everything that I teach people, I have backed up in research. It's really important for me to use high integrity research when making educated recommendations to clients. And then, of course, I always have the disclaimer of talk to your physician and do your own research. Don't believe anything that we tell you. Make sure that you do your own research. And I have references to everything in there. And so it's broken down into these different sections, which will include videos. There are beautiful handouts. There are active quizzes. And so, for example, when you start in the ACT method, there's this beautiful 30-page booklet that walks you through actual actionable exercises, because it's really important for me to take this out of a highly cognitive, highly intellectual experience where people just consume more data, but rather let's make it something that's applicable so that you can start making changes right now. In fact, that was a piece of feedback that we are getting from our anxiety warriors is, okay, I feel like I'm building new highways, but what can I do right now that will help me turn the page on my anxiety? What can I do that will get me quick results so that I don't have to turn to the Xanax every time I get scared, that I can feel like I'm moving in the direction of the highway I'm paving?
Excellent. So that fits really nicely with what I love about experiential therapies. And these are courses, and so these are education. This isn't even considered therapy, but I understand that if people take these courses, they can really get some information and even try some practical things as long as they get their physicians okay to do them. And if somebody is participating in integrative medicine with their physician and maybe even seeing a therapist, I can only imagine the results that somebody could get if they were engaging in your educational content. So I understand that when people hear content courses, they're wondering about price points. So we'll get into that, but you have very reasonably priced courses. But the first thing I wanted to go into is all of the free things that you've created that are completely free out there right now. The easiest place to start, I think, is the free Facebook group. You have a anxiety freedom Facebook group. Can you tell me about that?
Yeah, my heart was to create a space where people could come together. Like we said, we live in a very socially distanced culture. And right now, as we're recording this podcast, we're in the midst of a pandemic. And so it's amplifying the sense of social isolation, the social distancing. And so the solution that I wanted to create was, where can people come together to connect with other people and to, at the same time, get free information on how to turn the page. So it makes it a little bit different because they're getting priority information on how to stop anxiety as opposed to just consuming content. And so in that Facebook group, just by becoming a member, every single person who becomes a member of that Facebook group, they get a free 7-day anxiety freedom challenge. And that has 14 tips and videos and a booklet that's just beautiful. And we've been getting awesome feedback on how well these strategies are working. And the really cool thing about this is that the clinical research shows that if you use these strategies 5 minutes a day, that after regular practice, the brain will start to change its hardware. And so I love to use the metaphor with my clients is software versus hardware. Software is how we code, the way we think, what we do, and then hardware is the actual structure of the brain. And so my goal is to help empower you to actually change change the way you're using your brain so that your brain will then rewire itself. It'll pave new roads, it'll dig new crevices so that your automatic response will no longer be anxiety or fear or overwhelm or stress, but rather that you'll feel calm on command. And so just by getting in that group, not only are you getting access to really exclusive information from me and my team, you're getting access to awesome like-minded people, and you're getting this free tool that will help you start to pave that new highway and to help you start changing your thinking.
And while you were talking about the Facebook group, I think that's the best place for people to get started, because I did take a look in there and I did see that people were asking each other questions. What did you do? How did you try it out? I'm struggling with this or that. And they were getting feedback just from not only your team and you, but people that have been through some of the challenges and some of the courses. So interestingly enough, if you're not into Facebook, I found out, I'm going to put a link in the show notes to all of this, but I did see that on your website, www.drnicolecain.com, people can actually just enter their email address, and I guess it emails them the workbook and every day a new exercise, which has two parts to it that people can try out at home for 7 days and then see how they feel. So actually, we have the Facebook group you can check out at Dr. Nicole Cain, facebook.com/Dr. Nicole Cain, and join the group there. But you can actually just access the Anxiety Freedom Challenge 1 week on your website. So that's amazing. That's free. And there is no catch. The only catch is, I guess, that you have their email address, so you can send them discounts or coupons or blogs that you're writing a couple times a month, or I don't even know the frequency of the email list, but it's not that much after you're done with the challenge as far as I know. So that's free stuff. It's kind of like what I would call a micro course. You know, it's probably going to be very impactful, but it's a sample. The next thing, it amazed me that you put together 2 free on-demand webinars. So the first webinar is called Somatographic Imagery for Anxiety. I've never heard of that. Can you tell me what that is?
You haven't heard of it because I created it, and so it's brand new. And so somatographic imagery comes out of the awareness in brain science how if I think about a trauma, or if you think about a past event or a memory, and we put you under a brain scan, which would be like a functional MRI or a SPECT scan, which is what the Amen Clinic uses, we can actually see changes in the brain activity when you think about that. And when you involve other parts of the body, so if you feel it in your chest or if you feel anxiety in your stomach, the brain will respond differently versus if you feel just tingling and numbness on your arms and legs, right? And so what we want to do is when we're working on clearing anxiety, we want to go into the body's experience of anxiety and the other parts of the brain that are being activated in anxiety or stress or overwhelm. And so what the somatographic imagery does is it teaches you how to do that at home on demand, so that if you start feeling anxious, if you start feeling overwhelmed, if you start getting these unpleasant sensations in your body, this technique will teach you how to fairly quickly go in and start to rewire that. So you're having this software, this behavior of the brain that's causing you to feel anxious, and this technique will actually teach you how to go in and change that software so you can change your hardware so that your body stops making you feel anxious. And so the webinar is less than an hour, and it gives you actionable steps. I walk you through it, and you can do it in the moment. And again, that's all totally free.
I love it. So I'll have that in the show notes as well. Another one that I just saw you released is a 3-minute hack for anxiety webinar. Can you tell me about that one?
Yes. Feedback that we've been getting from some of our high achievers. So I work with people across the spectrum of busyness, some people who are at home and have the time to do long-standing assignments and work and dig in and read. And then I work with high-achieving CEOs and different people who just legit need something that works yesterday. And so I created the 3-minute hack, and it works. And so it's a quick fix, a fast hack to stop anxiety. So if you're getting ready to go into a board meeting and your body is starting to go into a panic attack, you don't want to take the Xanax that's going to slow you down and make you tired and have all these side effects. And you want to do something that's going to really work. And that's what the 3-minute hack is. And again, I walk you through it and I teach you how to do it in 3 minutes or less. And so the feedback we've been getting on that is absolutely amazing. It's totally free. So we'll make sure to make that available for all your listeners.
So yeah, and I love those because they're for people that, want to do it on the go, and you can look at it from your phone, and it's not on YouTube, it's on your website. It's a hosted on-demand webinar. So far you've got so much multimedia. I mean, people can find your podcast online. They can actually take a course from you online. This Anxiety Freedom Challenge has emails and workbooks and videos, and then you've got these webinars that just walk you through these longer exercises, about 50 minutes or so. But now I've got something for people that like to read. So you told me recently about a free, basically, I guess, booklet, mini book called the Anxiety Breakthrough Wellness Springboard. Can you tell me a little bit about the Springboard document, I guess, mini book that people can download and what that's about?
I actually made this for the Anxiety Breakthrough Warriors because these people who are signing up to really turn the page, to write the next act, to change their lives, people who are really ready to stop the vicious cycle of pill, ill, etc. So they're getting into the group, and a lot of them are like gung-ho, and they're saying to me, well, what can I start doing right now? What can I do right now? And I'm like, well, you're going to start writing your biography. We're going to do the first letter, which is A, in the ACT method, so you can start prepping for that. And they're like, okay, I did all that. What can I do next? And so I created the Wellness Springboard in answer to people who are those type A people who really want results now and who are ready to make changes. And there's a couple of really cool things in there. And one is the morning mastery. And so when I was writing the article about how to be incredibly successful, and I was going in and I was reading books that are written by some of the highest achievers in the planet, and what they were doing, there was something really similar across the board that all of these people were doing that was helping them not only be more productive, but actually helping with concentration and focus and productivity and mental and emotional stability. I was like, oh my gosh, why aren't we doing this? Like, this is something that I can teach people, and it works. In fact, I have a warrior who started using this, and she has found that her energy is 75% greater just doing this morning mastery thing. And that's just one thing that they're getting out of this book. And there's a couple of supplement bundles that I include in there too, because part of it, remember the biology, which is the physical part of the cast of characters. Sometimes your biology is just exhausted and burned and tired and depleted, and we're asking it to do all of this work. And so it's kind of like asking our car to climb a hill when it's super low on gas. And so I have really good specific physician grade nutrients included in that bundle, so that if people are like, what can I take? I'm spending money on nutrients and supplements anyway. Do you have something that is really good? And so I included that in there with a couple of exercises. And so it's called the Wellness Springboard, and it's more intended for people who are like ready to do something right now.
So I know that you've really been working hard on bringing all of this medical knowledge to the everyday person who maybe can't afford to come in and see an integrative physician in private practice or do consulting with you or something like that. And so you're bringing this all in and making it applicable to people that you don't have to have a medical degree. You don't have to see the doctor or sit on the couch for years. Now, we love making sure people get adequate checkups and making sure people are going to therapy and working on things. But I think this is just really empowering for people that may be in a place in their life where they don't have a lot of money to spend, or they don't really have good health care where they are. And this can reach people anywhere, which I think is really changing the way that health care is delivered. But one thing that struck me about your story is that not only are you a doctor and have done all this integrative medicine work, and you have this psychology degree, master's degree, and you've done all this therapy work, but you just know so much about anxiety because you mentioned having a personal experience. I think you said former anxiety sufferer turned anxiety freedom rebel. Can you tell us just a little bit about how you really can touch people's lives because of your own experience?
Oh my goodness. When I was in medical school, I kind of imagine it is that I'm spinning plates. And I actually talk about spinning plates in one of my podcasts. And so it's like I'm taking 26 credit hours. And in college, we weren't allowed to take more than 18. In medical school, we're taking over 26. And so I was at school until 10 o'clock at night. And we learned everything that your standard MD-DO learns. It's a part of our curriculum. But then in addition to that, we have to learn all of botanical medicine. We have to learn all of hydrotherapy. We have to learn all of the different things. And so the curriculum is just insane. And so I'm getting busier and busier. And then at the same time, I'm starting to grow my private practice. So I graduate, I do my residency, I grow a private practice. I'm becoming more and more stressed. And then my body, it just basically hit this turning point. I don't know if any of your listeners have experienced this, where your body's just like, I'm done with you. And we've had enough. We've been whispering, you haven't been listening. And so I had basically like a anxiety, nervous freak out, breakdown, whatever you want to call it. And this is where things got really interesting for me as a reflecting back and observing, is that I went everywhere. And so as a physician, I knew chiropractors, I knew psychiatrists, I knew acupuncturists, I knew Ayurvedic doctors, I knew botanists, I knew homeopaths, I knew Bach flower experts. Like really, I had access to all of the things, and I remember doing all of the things. I remember I was in sheer panic. My body was on fire. I couldn't sleep. I went days without sleeping. And I remember going and I was laying in a massage because people were like, oh, massage helps. And I just like cried during the entire massage because I was so anxious, overwhelmed, and nothing was working. And this is where my article about the big pink elephants was born, because there was a giant pink elephant in my entire story that nobody talked with me about. And so I'm doing all of the things, but the big pink elephant wasn't being addressed. And that is the whole first section of the ACT method, is that pink elephant, is the acknowledge chapter. And I will walk you through how to do that. And the tricky thing is that if your pink elephant is friends with your other clinicians' pink elephants, then you're just going to keep feeling like you're hitting your head against the wall and you're not getting better. And so basically I looked at all of the problems with the way that my treatment was. And honestly, I feel like I got to see some of the best clinicians in the world. And I was able to look at why it didn't work and then reverse engineer into how we could make it work. And so I'm so glad to say that I have achieved amazing victory over anxiety. I by no means am immune to it. I definitely have some of those old highways, old software patterns that continual work will always be a part of that. But having gone through that, when my clients, my coachees, my students, when they're telling me about their anxiety, I'm like, oh my gosh, babe, I totally get that. And you can turn the page. You can write your next act. You can start a new chapter. You can turn the page from a story of tragedy to write a story of triumph. And that is what the ACT method is all about.
I love it. So I think that is one of the things that's very important about your work, is because I have a lot of I'm a clinical director, and we hear a lot of times clients will come in and say, I went to this psychiatrist, I went to this doctor, they weren't listening to me. They told me it was all in my head, but my body was burning. I tried to sleep, and they just gave me a bunch of Ambien and some benzodiazepines, and they didn't really ask why I wasn't sleeping, and they were rushed. And so, and you having seen actually fantastic practitioners, integrative doctors, functional medicine doctors, a psychiatrist, therapists, all of these alternative healers as well, and then having a difficulty for so long until you figured out and what worked for you, I think is a gift for people that are out there, because the interesting thing about your content is that you have all this content on anxiety, but you also have other things about mental health and, the physical sides of things. But it's coming from not only a medical background, but real life experience, which I think is so important. In the therapy world, I don't really like it when I meet a therapist who says, I've done my work, I'm done. That scares me, because like you said, what if your pink elephant that you're not looking at, the elephant in the room, so to speak, that's hiding, has some sort of reference to one of your therapists or doctor's blind spots. And so it's important to, for clinicians to do the work. So I appreciate that you are doing the work and you're practicing what you preach. Some of the things I wanted to talk about that you offer, because there's so much, we could just keep talking for the next 2 hours. But let me just kind of give the listeners some things. So from what I understand is right now you're doing twice a week Facebook Live Talks on Wednesdays and Fridays at 1 Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific right now until the time shift, and it'll be 1 p.m. Eastern and 11 a.m. Pacific here in Daylight Savings Time when that goes through. That's really cool, and I guess you're starting to put those on YouTube, getting a lot of YouTube videos up, which I find really interesting because some people are just on the go and they need something now, and you have a variety of educational videos and talks and information on your YouTube channel, Dr. Nicole Cain's YouTube channel. Then, that's all free. You have the Anxiety Breakthrough Program, which currently I think you're going to be offering a live class. I think you said something about once a year. You would do a live teaching class, but it's also going to be available on demand sometime in the next 6 months, probably by 2021. Then you have some other very reasonably priced courses. You have a gut psychology course about gut health. You can talk about all these when I list them. You have a class on medication tapering and learning about that and different medications and what the side effects are when you taper off and how to taper off if you want to. You have a whole course on liver health. You have a whole course on high libido life for women. And I guess you have 2 more courses that are already filmed. You're just waiting to put them up on your website, which are depression, overcoming depression, and a bipolar course. Can you tell me a little bit about these courses and the very cheap price points I'm seeing here on your website where people can watch these courses, which have a lot of video, and they each come with their own book? Can you tell me about those?
Yeah, the Anxiety Breakthrough Freedom course is, oh my gosh, it's like my magnum opus. And when you guys check out this course, you're going to see all of this information about psychology, counseling. I introduce you to some of the most advanced psychotherapy techniques and show you how to do a lot of the work at home. I'm going to introduce you to different types of testing, and there's actually a whole algorithm that could replace multiple doctor's visits with your functional medicine doctor, who would say, like, do you have this, and this? Yes. Well, you probably should do this test. And so there's actually a whole algorithm that you can then take completed to your functional medicine doctor. So that saves you a ton of time on your doctor's couch. It gives you the information. And then I have all of these different pieces of information of how to formulate your own botanical tincture, because you can buy the tinctures. But then people always ask me, well, should I use Passiflora or should I use Kava Kava? What's the difference? How do I take them? And I actually have whole beautiful diagrams and charts and algorithms for that. I teach you how to use Bach flowers. I have flow charts for how to use homeopathy. Like this is what I would have wanted when I was in the midst of my anxiety. And so I created it for you. And we have the 5F life design system, and that's me walking you through how to create the life that you desire using all of these different things. And that's over 60 pages of magic, and there's videos, and it's so exciting. So basically it's all the medical and psychology and, past decade of clinical stuff that I've just been like shoving into this course. And so for some people, it may feel like a fire hose of information to the face, and for other people, they're just going to be loving it. And you can take it all to your doctor and, make sure to personalize it for you. And so that's the anxiety course: videos, books, amazing algorithms, all this stuff. And then we also have the gut psychology program, and that was one of the first courses I ever wrote, because really, fundamentally, we know that 95% of your serotonin is made in your gut. We know that gut impacts your emotional well-being. There are foods that you can eat to increase your dopamine. There are foods that you can eat to increase your serotonin. And there's ways that you can reduce inflammation and help with concentration and focus. And so the gut psychology program is all about that. And one of the number one side effects of people who are taking antidepressants are low libido, especially in women. And instead of just talking about like, well, what's the pink pill to help with women who have a high libido or low libido, is, well, what's underneath of that? And so that is intended to be a complement to people who are working through trauma, who are working through anxiety, who are doing all of the work, but want a little bit of a pivot towards sexuality. And so I did that from a very honoring, beautiful place. And so I made that available to people. And then
that's the high libido life course,
the high libido
right?
life
and then
course.
You've got a couple more courses. What are the other ones?
I also have a medication tapering course, and that's because so basically a lot of this started in 2019 where I was booked out for over a year and people couldn't get in. So I tried to train in naturopathic or other functional medicine physicians to start being able to see people from the same philosophy. And it turned out to be cost prohibitive for a lot of clients. And so I was trying to create a solution to this problem, and creating courses and free online content was the answer. And so one of the things that we got a lot of calls on was medication tapering. And to give you an example of this is I had a woman who came to see me with bipolar disorder, and she was on over 1,000 milligrams of Seroquel, which is an antipsychotic drug. And when I was sitting in the visit with her and her son, she was so sedated, she could barely interact with me. She just kind of stared at me with her jaw hanging open. And so she's not manic. She's just totally over-medicated. And so I said, go back to your doctor and see if he would be open to tapering her down just a little bit so we can start doing some of the work to help with mood stability. And so he dropped her down to 200 milligrams, which is a ridiculous, huge jump, completely inappropriate jump. She immediately had a psychotic episode. And so what I'm doing is providing education so that you as a consumer can read about these medications, know what to expect. I teach you where to look for drug interactions. Basically, my goal is to empower you, because had they been empowered with that information and the doctor suggested a ridiculous huge drop, that they could have said, hey, it looks like what's a more common tapering strategy would be this. Could we maybe talk about that, so that it's more of an empowering conversation so that you don't feel like you're a victim to whatever your doctor's telling you to do? And the other thing is, I notice that a lot of doctors are a little bit too aggressive with tapers, because if we cause the body to go into like whiplash, then your experience coming down on medication is going to be a lot more difficult, especially with benzos. And so we get a ton of calls on how to taper benzos, highly habit-forming medications that are used for insomnia and anxiety. And so I educate you on how to do that in a way that won't cause the whiplash. And the other cool thing about it is that there are ways to mitigate or to help with the withdrawal. And so I teach with the benzo tapering, I teach about GABA bridges, and with antidepressant tapering, I teach about ways to support serotonin and ways to support side effects. And so that is the beauty of the medication tapering course.
This is amazing. This is all on your website.
Yes.
This liver health course. I mean, liver health. I just don't know much about that. Maybe just give us a little summary about why you made a liver health course.
It seems kind of random with all my mental health teaching. And the reason for that is because your liver is the number one thing in terms of how you're going to metabolize your hormones, metabolize your medications, metabolize your vitamins, your supplements, your foods. And so that has a huge impact on our well-being and how we're doing. And so this was birthed out of somebody in Benzo Buddies found my content, they shared it in there. And one of the big issues people in benzodiazepines deal with are liver inflammation, liver enzymes rising. And there's amazing ways to support the liver. And all these people don't know about it. In fact, there's a doctor who was in a hospital. He was hired to keep people alive long enough to get liver transplants. And so he used 3 ingredients, alpha lipoic acid, milk thistle, and selenium, to help people get their liver enzymes down. But the side effect is that so many people got better, they got off of the liver transplant list. And, of course, that guy was fired because curing people of liver disease isn't really good for business of liver transplants. But that kind of information is out there. And so I put it all together so that you can find it if you have elevated liver enzymes.
Yes, unfortunately, in today's for-profit insurance model, curing people is a terrible way to make money. And that was actually one of the people from Goldman Sachs said that in 2019 or 2020. You can look that up. You have 2 more courses about to be released in the next few months, the depression course and the bipolar course. Those are pretty self-explanatory, but I understand they're both teaching you about depression in different ways to get through it, and teaching you about bipolar. And anything you want to preview about those couple courses that are coming out?
I have an amazing podcast that I'm actually going to be doing soon where I interview somebody who was diagnosed with bipolar. Bipolar disorder, for your listeners who don't know, is characterized by two poles. That's why it's called bipolar. One is an amplified, elevated manic or hypomanic state, which is characterized by, high energy, not sleeping. They could be anxious or agitated, or they could be happy, although that's not very common. And then the other end of the pole is where they're lethargic and depressed and they need to sleep more and they don't have any energy. And so this client that I've been working with for the past 6 years, she had been diagnosed with pretty severe bipolar disorder. And one of the things that we ended up doing was, of course, we're doing the cast of characters, we're looking at biology, we're looking at relationships, but we've been actually able to empower her to use her bipolar mood swings for her benefit in a way that is productive and useful, as opposed to her being a victim to her bipolar mood swings. And so the way that she experiences her bipolar is so completely and totally different. And when I started private practice, I was focusing on bipolar. So I treated bipolar disorder for quite a number of years before switching into anxiety. And so the content for that course is coming out. There's nothing like it. And I think you guys are going to really love it.
So yeah, I noticed that, most of your content is about anxiety and related factors right now. And I think that's very important during this pandemic that we're in and all of the social upheaval in the United States. A lot of people are very anxious. A lot of unemployment, a lot of difficulties going on right now. So there's so much free stuff like we talked about, plus the paid course, the live course, the course that's going to be released online. Just a fun preview, you did mention that you have completed an integrative lupus course, and you're almost done with integrative solutions for eating disorder courses, which is going to be released on a different platform, probably a teaching platform such as Udemy, coming out in the next few months. So that's pretty cool. I mean, I think there's something for everyone. So I'm really excited to help people find your content, especially so much free stuff and low cost, which is awesome. And where people can find you, from what I've got here in my notes, is your website, www.drnicolecain.com. Very active Facebook. People can join the Facebook group. Your Instagram's quite active as well, at Dr. Nicole Cain. As we mentioned, your YouTube channel is getting a lot of hits as you're actually putting up more content there. Of course, for some people, they like the LinkedIn. I've got that in the notes. And I guess what I've kind of gathered from knowing you is that you have told me before that you're tired of somebody getting a report with, this is your diagnosis, this is your problem, and there's a period at the end of that sentence. So you told me about one of your approaches, and I kind of want to leave listeners with this important information. Can you tell me about what you have against periods at the end of sentences?
I believe that everybody deserves a comma at the end of their sentence. And so if that means that you've been diagnosed with depression, a lot of people are like, okay, I'm depression. I'm depressed. I have depression. That is my life sentence. And I'd like to challenge that. And let's put a comma at the end of that sentence and say, okay, one of your experiences is depression, but what can we do? What's underneath of the depression? Let's look at the ACT method to acknowledge why you're where you are. Let's look at your history. Let's look at how your biography became your biology. Let's look at your entire experience with respect and honor. And then let's look at your cast of characters. Let's look at your different parts of yourselves, because I guarantee you that there is a part of you that's depressed, but there's also a part of you that has hope, or you wouldn't be listening to this. And so then let's look at your social environment, your cultural environment. Let's look at your relationships, your job. Let's look at your biology. There's so many cases where I had somebody come into my office. In fact, this one gentleman sticks out. He was diagnosed with major depressive disorder. He identified with that. He just figured maybe he could help with some of the energy by going to a naturopathic doctor. And we did genetic testing, epigenetic testing. To make a long story short, he doesn't methylate very well. So therefore, he can't make mood-boosting serotonin very well. We corrected that. His depression was gone. So he got a comma at the end of his sentence. So let's look at the whole cast of characters, and then let's give you tools for transformation, because you can transform your life. And so my goal is to spread the word that everybody deserves a comma, not just the 1%, not just the people who come from families that do natural, not just from families who come from a culture who do counseling, but let's look at across the spectrum of what that comma would look like for you, and then let's help you get there.
I love it. And I think coming from the mental health and psychology field that I'm in, a lot of counselors, we always want to give our clients hope. But I've found a lot of discussions I've had with colleagues is that we feel helpless because when people come in and they've got all these issues going on and we go, uh-oh, this doesn't just sound like a narrative issue or depression, existential issue or a regular anxiety or even PTSD, which is very treatable with trauma-specific interventions. This sounds like something going on biologically. And they keep going to the same old doctors, getting the same results. People tell me they don't get listened to. They just get a prescription, and then the 1% can go to Mayo and Cleveland Clinic and get these sort of insane packages that poke and prod you, take all your blood and your DNA, and figure out what's actually going on, and then you can get a treatment plan that way. But you're providing this at a very reasonable cost, and then a bunch of free stuff on top of it. And I think that's very important for therapists and out there is that you've got to find doctors that you can trust and make referrals to, or informational content like you're putting out there. Because I know right now you're not really taking many people to work with at all and doing more consulting, not really focusing on your private practice as much right now, just because you're so busy trying to bring this information to more people. Therapists out there, you've got to understand that. United States is one of the sickest first world countries, and while we have some of the best technology on how to heal, broken bones and major car accident trauma and bullet wounds, and we've got amazing different technologies for different diseases and immunizations, we also have a real problem with any sort of preventative and holistic and integrative methods being popular. They're not. We're mostly a reactionary medical world where in a lot of other countries and first world countries that have way less cancer rates, way better cure rates for mental health, way better solutions for people with multiple types of diseases and conditions, they are focusing on holistic and preventative models, and they are thinking about what they eat, and they are thinking about different, and there are community rituals for stress reduction that don't just involve alcohol and marijuana like we do in the U.S. So we have to see here that Dr. Cain is offering. She understands conventional medicine and was educated in it, but also taking a lot of the wisdom from the tradition in the United States of preventative and holistic, ideas that's been here for a long time, but also across the world. So I think it's important for you to find practitioners out there that you can trust in your community and, if not, online. So thank you, Dr. Cain, for providing so much free information for our community members out there on all types of health, not just mental health, but mental health being very important right now at this time. So I really appreciate you being available for this interview, and anything you want to leave our listeners with.
I think that it can be overwhelming when you just had a whole bunch of content thrown at you, and I have so many things to offer you. And so I would love to encourage you that if you're interested in what you're hearing, then just go to my website, and then my website will link you to the webinar. It will link you to the free content. It will link you to the YouTube. It will link you to the podcast. It will link you to tons of blogs and then resources. And so if you're living in a place where you just need some support, some answers, you need that comma, but you're not in the place to actually make the moves, then just go check out our free content. Just check it out and read the testimonials and know that there is hope. And if there's any way that I could put you in touch with somebody else, if it turns out that you love what we have to offer, but maybe someone else would be a better fit, we're happy to do that. And so you can contact me at my website. So if you're wondering, okay, how can I get involved? Just go check out our website, drnicolecain.com.
Awesome. Thanks so much. And I'm sure we'll have you back again once your book is released.
Thanks for having me. This was really fun.
there you have it. This has been another episode of the Intentional Clinician Podcast. I surely enjoyed my time talking to Dr. Nicole Cain. And so if you're listening to this, check out her YouTube or one of her social media channels and subscribe right now. Speaking of subscriptions, I would surely appreciate it if you enjoyed this episode if you subscribe to the Intentional Clinician Podcast or gave us a rating on iTunes. We're really passionate about providing information to people because I really believe that knowledge is power, and that's why this podcast is free and why I know Dr. Nicole Cain has made many of her modules and educational courses free or low cost as well. I was reading a quote the other day by Carl Jung, which I think I'll use in a future podcast, but this is what he said. As far as we can discern, the sole purpose of human existence is to kindle a light of meaning in the darkness of mere being. And I think right now, a lot of people are really soul-searching because of all the things that have been going on in the world recently in 2020. And I do believe that a lot of people are feeling quite empty as a lot of the solutions seem to be short-term, numbing out, a quick fix, or some sort of false promise. And I think what we're trying to do here at the Intentional Clinician is having people dig deeper and go on their own journey, and we are a mere resource. And I think I really admire Dr. Nicole Cain as well because in her courses and what she shared with me, it's not about some sort of shining solution. Like, it is going to bring you to a new plane, but let's say you're trying to get to a higher number, it's going to get you out of the negative, and it's going to get you there, but there's still work involved. And so she's not claiming to have the definitive answer, but I do believe her resources are built for many different types of people. And I have actually gone through some of them, and I really enjoyed them. I thought it was a very fresh approach, kind of coming from the mental health world. Hearing a doctor that actually talks about things other than medications was quite refreshing. So I am wishing you all a peaceful and safe week. And I want to let you know that the recording you just listened to consists of the personal opinions of Paul Krauss and his guest, and while these are based upon the literature they have read and their experience in their respective fields, these should not be viewed as the definitive opinion on any subject. Listening to this podcast is not a substitute for treatment. If you are in crisis, please dial 911 right now or the National Suicide Prevention Line at 1-800-273-8255. Are you a young person of color feeling down, stressed, or overwhelmed? Text STEVE, that's STEVE, to 741-741. That's 741-741. Texting to it, and a live trained crisis counselor will respond via text. If you are in need of counseling, please do not hesitate to make an appointment with a local counselor in your area. You can also make an appointment with the excellent clinicians in the Grand Rapids area at Health for Life Grand Rapids and the Trauma Informed Counseling Center of Grand Rapids by visiting www.healthforlifegr.com or by going to your internet search and typing in the Trauma Informed Counseling Center of Grand Rapids. The great news is that due to telehealth regulations that have changed during the COVID-19 quarantine, if you are located in the state of Michigan, our counselors can see you from anywhere as long as it is appropriate, utilizing a secure telehealth platform, and that includes everyone on insurance. And if you don't have insurance, either way, we can help you out. We're getting a new webpage soon, and as you can see, we now take upwards of 10 or 11 insurances, which a lot of private outpatient clinics do not. So check us out, www.healthforlifegr.com or the Trauma Informed Counseling Center of Grand Rapids. The Michigan Mental Health Counselors Association is working to increase the availability of quality mental health services statewide, increasing education, promoting best practices, and working to keep licensed professional counselors and other professionals accessible by the public. If you want to know more about what we had to do last year in 2019 in Michigan, check out episode 32 and 33. And good news on that front, it looks like the Senate finally passed a bill provisionally to allow LPCs to bill Medicare. As right now, if you have Medicare and you're an older person with Medicare, you cannot go to a licensed professional counselor. You have to go to a social worker, and that is due to old archaic laws. And a lot of social workers are fantastic therapists, but a lot of them don't have training in outpatient therapy. They've often worked in clinics. So licensed professional counselors, our entire mission is working in outpatient therapy in the outpatient clinic or sometimes in schools, and that's our main training. So we're really looking forward to that. So please call your senator or House member and tell them, yes, you want LPCs to be able to bill Medicare so that we can serve more people, because right now people on Medicare have a hard time finding any therapist to work with them, even though it's virtually free for them. Another interesting thing that just happened was that the Veterans Administration is passing yet another bill to include LPCs to be able to help veterans who have served in wars or just in the military in general and have ill effects from that. Counseling should be the first line of treatment, and so that we can help the American veterans be able to recover from whatever's going on in their lives now that they're back in America. So another thing I wanted to mention is, if you want to check out more about Dr. Nicole Cain's original work, starting out a long time ago, I think 3 years ago, this interview was episode 15, What is Gut Psychology, with Dr. Nicole Cain. I think you'll find that entertaining. And of course, her podcast is called Get Your Life Back with Dr. Nicole Cain. And I'll have all of her other links to the free 1-week Anxiety Freedom Challenge with ebook, the somatographic imagery webinar, the 3-minute hack webinar, the free ebook of the Anxiety Breakthrough Wellness Springboard, her Anxiety Freedom 1-week challenge group, and her new Anxiety Breakthrough Program online course. I think this isn't the live one. This is now the one that's recorded. She'll probably do another live one again, and all the other courses mentioned, as well as her social media. So thanks so much for listening. This has been Paul Krauss, the Intentional Clinician Podcast.